Yeah, so guys, welcome back to the second part of this presentation. We call it part two. Yeah, but then it's a continuation of the methodology, which is the chapter 3 of the thesis. All right, so now we were talking about we were actually looking at the study area, and then we stated that the study stated that the population of Lagos Island was estimated to be about 314,000, and then Ikeja 470,000 people, and then Mushin 935,000 people, and then of course Festac 372,000, occupants of Festac town, according to the National Population Commission data 2024. But then this data is available there, for everyone to have access to, and then we actually deployed this data for this study. All right, so let's go on. The area of study is as shown here. Ikeja is in pink, and Ilupeju is the area that is coded blue, and of course Festac town is color coded as yellow, while Lagos Island is color coded as what? As green. And then this is just for academic purpose. The color coding is for academic purpose. All right. So, and obviously the various study areas are shown in this first table 1, showing the selected study areas, and then of course the point of interest, POIs. And this is the map of Lagos Island, and in the various islands, the study identified 83 points of interest, within Lagos Island settlements. And then this area cut across the 6.85 kilometers square, land area of Lagos Island. And of course the study also captured 55 points of interest within the Ikeja GRA, specifically GRA, not the whole of Ikeja. The study studied GRA Ikeja. All right, the GRA part of Ikeja, not the whole Ikeja settlement. All right, so and then the Ikeja GRA settlement actually is about 5.01 kilometers square land area, and 55 point of interest were selected or were identified, within the Ikeja GRA. And of course Ilupeju has about the least point of interest, and this is also because of the level of industrialization, and then so many of the areas were not accessible, during this study, because it's quite built up. All right, so 35 point of interest were identified within the Ilupeju area, and then of course the settlement of Ilupeju, the total land area of Ilupeju is about 5.35 kilometers square, as stated there. And of course the last but not the least is the Festac town, and a total of 43 point of interest were identified, within the Festac town. And of course the Festac town settlement has about 7.3 kilometer square land area. As a matter of fact, it has the most land area captured for this study. It's obviously stated there. Festac town has 7.3, Lagos Island has 6.8, Ikeja GRA has of course followed by Ilupeju that has 5.35, and then of course Ikeja GRA has 5.01. But Lagos Island has the highest number of points of interest that were identified for this study. And then this map is also showing the study areas, selected the 4 districts selected for these studies, and then we can see obviously there that the map showing the selected 4 district, the existing area imagery of the selected study area of what? Ilupeju, Festac, Lagos Island, and of course Ikeja GRA. Of course, like I said, in no particular order, but then we can see the way that the settlements are clearly identified and then color coded. The color codes are strictly for academic purpose, and then for easy annotation, identification, and then for quick references. So you could see and also identify with them. During this study. That's why we use the pink, the blue, the yellow, and of course the green color codes. So, data collection. 2 main sources of data were gathered during this study: primary and of course the secondary sources of information that were gathered, during this study. So, in order to collect primary data, field survey, questionnaire, of course structured interview with landscape specialists and government policymakers interested in climate change, adaptation, and mitigation were used. So relevant public and unpublished and published records, the planning agency, online resources were consulted for information. The Ministry of Environment, the State Land Bureau, and other government parastatals, provided the majority of the statistical data that we use for this study. We visited a lot of all these agencies, and then we had both the relevant published and unpublished records. Some of them are within the public domain, some are not. All right. So, but then we had access to a quantum number of this data, and then we used this for this study. And some of the data we also gotten from outdated maps of Lagos State, very old map of Lagos State of some of these settlements, and then the maps, images, books, thesis, past thesis, newspaper publications, article, magazine, and of course website, where additional sources of secondary data that we used for this study. All right, so let's go on to the sampling procedure. So the sample size consists of the whole population of Lagos Island, Ikeja GRA, Ilupeju, and of course Festac Town. All right, put together within the spectrum of Lagos metropolis. So that's the sample size, the total population of the people. That's why in the previous slide we were able to garner the total number of the Lagos settlers within those 4 settlements according to the National Population Commission. So we got that data, and that's what we used for this study. All right, so these settlements have high rate of urbanization, and the business activity was the main factor in their selection for this study. So the study deductive methodology revealed research on the most recent work on resilient green city, as well as the expertise in sustainability, infrastructure, the environment, of course, green city. So the spatial distribution of the 12 component and the linear landscape, public, and of course urban trees in the case study area is displayed, employing the spatial mapping process, utilizing GIS, software, like as we clearly did here. So the population of this study, that's, has also been stated. And then the target population is in the people of the selected settlement have 6 categories, which also state that. So the study actually identified the various categories of people that were used for this study. So what are these categories of people? Who are they? The 6 categories of people are the corporate office owners, workers, workers around, factory workers, office workers, business owners, traders, road users, park users, the residents, the homeowners, the landlords, park users, people, on going about their daily activities within those settlements as at the time of study, within the study period, where the people that were used for the study within both Lagos Island and of course on the mainland, and the settlements were identified on the mainland. So when determining the sample size of the survey, a variety of factors are taken into consideration, including the level of precision required for the sample result and the most suitable way of analyzing the survey result, and of course the sample's ability to adequately measure all variables. We ensure that we're able to measure all the variables that we identified, within this study. All right. So when multiple variable needs to be specified, so all this we were clearly specified. All this, we measured them, using the high tree echo. It's clearly stated, in this study, and of course in the appendix, pages. All right, so let's go. Also, the population sizes of the Lagos of the people within the city. So these are maps showing the various interconnectivity, streets interconnectivity and the point of interest. So these maps are showing the map of Lagos Island, Ikeja, Jare, Ilopejo, all showing how the roads, the road and the water bodies, link with the point of interest that we identified. Also, don't forget that 83 points were identified in Lagos Island, 53 were identified in Lagos, Ikeja, Jare. Of course, at Ilopejo, we identified 35, point of interest, and 43 point of interest were identified for this study at within Festac down, for this study. So the population size is also, we've brought all the total population that we established in the previous slides, according to the National Population Commission of Lagos Island, Ikeja, Amoa, Odofin, Festac, and of course Ilopejo within the Mushin local government area. And the population sizes were stated here, and then the total population of about 2 million people, actually 2.1 million people, were identified and used for the study. So each settlement unit was identified based on what? On the 12 GI component existing within the open spaces. That's what we also did, and then we did justice to that. All right, so we identified the various 12 components, following some certain, checklist that we used to ensuring that everything were, considered within each of the settlements. So the three indicators are environmental, social, and economic. All right, these are the various indicators, and these indicators were further subdivided into 10. I think the next slide will show how this was further subdivided into various categories, from 3 to 10. Yeah, so we further subdivided it into 10, and these indicators are important for urban settlement at both the micro and macro level. All right, so we consider both the macro and macro level of development in each of the various settlements. So, and they include the physical elements, landscape pattern, and of course the socio-economic and social-cultural patterns. All right. So these are the various indicators that we used, in identifying some of the problems, that we, discovered, within the selected settlement. So indicators like what? Environmental, ecological, social, and of course economic, and these are all clearly defined, as stated here. So now this is the chart showing the GI performance indicators and the various categories, and of course the categorizations as we used in this study. We can see we deploy the use of high tree echo. High tree echo helps in the analysis using the DPSRS model for the assessment, and then we see how the three things are linked, actually used to link both the ecology, the social, and of course the economic indicator, following the three indicator themes that we previously identified. And of course these three led to 10 indicators categories, which we tagged C1, Of course, C1, C2, C3, C4, 3, C3, C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, categories, and these all 10 led us to 30 subcategories, and then, of course, three categories of various 12 GI components, and then all put together, we were able to establish what 8 eco benefits that were derivable. If all these GI infrastructures are put in place, and that's what we did. All right, we can see that clearly that we have 3 indicators, 10 indicator category. This is seen in the appendix page. And of course, the 3 main GI component that we previously established in the very first chapter, which were green, gray, and of course the green, blue. And then what are those 12, sub components? You don't get it twisted. There were 3 main components, 12 main sub components that we identified in this study. So you can say 3, 12, 8. 3 main GI components, 12 subcomponents, and of course 8 benefits. The 3 GI component are the green component, the green gray component, and of course the green blue component. All right, so under the barrier benefits are stated here in the chart. So this is the checklist of UGI component in Lagos Island. So we have the same checklist across board. Its same checklist was deployed in Lukbeju. The same checklist was deployed in Ikeja GRA. The same checklist was also deployed in Lukbeju for effective data gathering. And of course, these are clearly stated according to the subcategories, and then the various ratings of having this GI knowing the GI existing GI, and then of course the conditions of the open spaces, and this can be rated as either excellent, good, acceptable, bad, or not available. So we were able to use this in ensuring that all the various components were captured and people responded to this perfectly. And of course, the key document that we use for the qualitative content analysis were the last SPAC green policy, guideline, the Lagos Model City Master Plan of Apapa, and I think we have various master plans within the Lagos, metropolis. All the various settlements of various, regions, has their different master plan that was proposed a very few years ago, where we have access to some of this master model. They call it Lagos Model City Master Plan. So we have the Lagos Planning Gazette 2010, Lagos State Official Gazette for Development, Abuja Development Guide, and of course Control Manual. Of course, the National Housing and Urban Development Policy 1991. We have access to this document. You can say 1991. That's about 25 years ago. Yeah, we have access to this document. And then the National Construction Policy in 1991. But though this document were actually old and obsolete, outdated. Yeah, but we refer to them, for reference purposes. And then we were able to update some of the information that we got from this document. So now let's go to the data collection model of high-tree echo, the adoption of high-tree echo, which we use for this study. I don't want to bore you with so many of these some of these things, yeah, but we use the basic echo model as captured here, and this is the simple framework that shows the flow of how feed data is being used to gather tree data, and then this also determines the carbon, the air quality, the avoided runoff, the energy effect, the VOC in the various settlements. This we use for to gather all our data and then we also use this for effective forecasting. So, and then we also introduced the use of GIS maps. The GIS map presented what the GI component categories, the green, gray, blue component, and subcategories within the open spaces of selected settlement. So these areas were selected through what? Purposive sampling, following the laydown design criteria established from the previous chapter. Of course, the worldview regulation of GI component and within the context of the Lagos metropolis. So quickly, let's go. This is the chart showing how we introduce the use of the floor, showing the GIS analysis pattern, following the Landsat imagery of selected settlement, data from the study area, point of interest, the data we gathered at the various point of interest, all right? And then the unsupervised classification, GIS mapping, pre-processing, subsetting, spectral analysis, and then of course spectral characteristics of the selected settlement. So GIS mapping and analysis procedure adopted for this study. So that's the chart, and then this is a map, a general map showing the for selected component, and the various analysis and of course the point of interest selected within the area. So this is another map showing the water hydrological pattern and then the direction of water flow. You can see the flow of water, the blue line showing the drainage pattern, the gray line shows the road, the blue area is the Lupejo, yellow Festac, and of course the pink area is Ikeja, while the green is Lagos Highland. So we have the map showing the four selected settlement as previously stated. So so we have all the maps. So here is the summary of the research materials that we adopted for this study, and then of course the summary of the data collection methods, like the various research objectives and how the various research questions for this study, the data that we got, and the data collection strategies that we deployed for this research as stated in this table. So now let's quickly go into the the fourth chapter of this study, and the data presentation and analysis. So here, this chapter it provides a thorough. This chapter actually provides a thorough explanation of how the current GI situation is assessed, evaluated, and of course explained. So let's take a break. We come back in a moment. Thank you.
Congratulations and celebrations. This is the moment of your dedication. Cheers to the